welcome back to the C Morning Show. Now it's time for some discussion, right? So, speaking of gender equality that I mentioned before, Paul, there is actually some stigma in society where women are still viewed as not as equal than men. This is especially true in Asia, also Indonesia. Now, in response, many female activists have been fighting and defending the roles of women, including here in Indonesia.
That's right, Rasha. Gender equality is integral for prosperity and can help women obtain a higher quality of life. However, this does not mean that women should discard their nature.
Yes, and women empowerment also benefits the economy as well as the social. This can be achieved in no small part due to the hard work of female activists and organizations who fought for gender equality. So to talk more about this issue, we have Isabella Veronica, Southeast Asia Regional of Girl Up, a campaign by the United Nations Foundation. Hi, Bella. How are you?
Morning, Bella.
Good morning.
Hi, morning, Russia, morning, Paul.
Thank you so much for joining us, Bella. So, Girl Up is a movement by girls for girls. It aims to support and push women empowerment and leadership with a focus on gender equality, especially in Southeast Asia. Can you tell us more about the movement?
So yeah, Girl Up started at 2010 actually, and we've been present for, I think, almost more than a decade now. And we recently started Girl Up in 2019 here in Indonesia, and we have been working in more than 12 provinces, and we're actually present in more than, I think, 20 different campuses approximately. And yes, as you've said and mentioned in the beginning, we are a gender equality organization which sort of like provides leadership capacity building and trainings for young leaders, especially here in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, in order for them to also understand the issue of gender from a very young age and to be able to campaign for it and learn more about how they can actually make a difference in their community, even though it's with limited resources or even capacity. So yeah, I think that's in a nutshell.
Hi, Bella. Paul here. So you're basically handling the region, and you're kind of more involved in how gender equality is here in Indonesia and elsewhere around the region. How does it compare to what's been happening around the world in regards to gender equality?
Yeah, Indonesia is a very special case, and also Southeast Asia, but I can speak mostly on behalf of Indonesia. And speaking of how gender equality has been working in the country, we still have a lot of effort and we still need a lot of work to be done. Mostly the issue that we are talking about in Grow Up is regarding sexual harassment and violence in both campus and public spaces, which has been a lot of the spotlight in terms of how we're actually creating our campaigns and talking about how we can manage the issue and how our girls can take part also in, grassroots activism. So that's what our centered focus is. And just like many other countries, I think specifically in Indonesia, we still have this stigma, we still have this sort of like idea that gender equality is only a women's issue, right? Whereas it's not a zero-sum game. It's for everyone. And I always say that everyone experiences gender, and in one way or another, everyone also experiences gender discrimination. And that is the reason why we're paving this conversation forward here in Indonesia.
Well said.
So a lot of your clubs are actually young girls that were in university, right? And you teach them the leadership framework tools to help them, become leaders of the future. Now, in continuation to what you just said, that this is not only a girl's issue, but also everyone's issue, how are you currently leading the conversation? How did you tell the girls in the campuses on how to present themselves as Girl Up clubs and telling the story to other probably less educated students or even men?
Yes, so basically we always say that these girls already know what's best for their community. So we provide the trainings, but they are the movers. Because again, we always say that young girls and young people are not the problems, they are the problem solvers. So one way where we start, sort of like our leadership development model, is that we train them before they create campaigns, through internal discussions, through giving them resources about how they can communicate well with their communities, how they can actually create a sense of, safe space in their community. And then we also teach them how to write reports, how to build teams, how to be an independent analysis or analyzers. And from there on, they continuously have discussion with our team in the regional team, and also those in UN Foundation in Washington D.C. And from there, we actually always assist them, making sure that they're on the right track, but also they have a lot of independence to do whatever they want to do, and also research the type of gender issues that they would like to deep dive further. And I think that that also creates sort of like this community. And I always say that being in Girl Up is like a learning, it's like a learning curve for me. I think the best part is that I'm learning also from these girls. As much as they're learning about gender equality, it's a two-way street. So I'm also learning a lot about how to lead from their perspective as well. So yeah.
Yeah, throughout these discussions, Bella, what other issues? I mean, we do know that sexual harassment, abuse, or violence, it's one of the main issues, not just in Indonesia, but around the world as well. But what other issues have come out throughout these, your discussions with these students, especially these youths, in regards to gender inequality?
Yeah, our gender equality model has always been rooted in intersectionality, and intersectionality in terms of different issues, but mostly cross-cutting issues that are happening here in Indonesia that's very much relevant. Besides sexual harassment and violence, we talk a lot about anti-racism and hate here, and how it affects certain vulnerable communities and certain marginalized communities, and how we can also like foster the conversation to make it more inclusive. Other things that we're also talking about is regarding reproductive health rights and period poverty in certain rural areas in Indonesia. That is actually one of our very first campaign, which we did in Yogyakarta. And period poverty is basically the lack of access to menstrual products to several women, especially in rural areas. And we created a campaign and actually a fundraising to provide more education towards the issue of menstrual hygiene management. And it was one of our most successful campaign. I think that is also one of those are the two, I guess, quite big issues. And one more is regarding still the idea of still discrimination, just as a umbrella term and as a whole, which can open to lots of other sub issues like gender-based violence and so forth. Yeah.
So the team now is focusing so much on giving the tools for the young girls for the leadership, right? And then they spearhead these initiatives in their own communities. Can you tell us also and share to our audience, like, why is it so important to teach these young girls about leadership from such an early age?
Yes, this is because, as I've mentioned earlier, everyone experiences gender, and some part of it is gender discrimination. But I think that the most important aspect is that we should continue to fight for equality in our society, and it should start from the youngest of our generation. I think that young people here, we reap the benefits of everything that's happening, and we're actually living in a very interesting situation and basically era in our history, right? From living in a pandemic to having so many milestones in history. And because of that, times have changed, generations have changed, and we believe that no matter the background, girls and young boys have the power to transform themselves, their communities, and the world that is around them. And I think that it is sort of like paving the way for them to start early, so that when they are, like in their mid 20s, or where I'm right now, like um, I know what kind of gender, and I know how to react to sort of like a lot of the issues that is around me. Because again, the future is young people. I do believe that. And but I think what's important is that I also vouch that us in Grow Up continue to have intergenerational dialogues with those who are currently in our governments or international organizations. And that's why Grow Up is bridging that gap between the other generation and also the younger generation. Because it's important that we have this conversation, because if we do not start having these conversations, and we don't start to value the equaling value of society of similar and different intersection, it's going to be, we can't really see the change that we truly wanted to see.
Can you tell us a little bit about one of the things that I read about a lot of times, because I'm a big sports fan. So when it comes to sports, the main topic of gender equality is pay.
Yeah.
Because when you have professional athletes, it's just such a huge gap
Yeah.
between the male athletes and the women athletes. How much is focus are you actually kind of dictating towards pay inequality when it comes to gender equality?
Yeah, labor and pay inequality is definitely a huge aspect of gender um, issue, especially here in Indonesia, regarding, a lot of women not having equal pay to men and everything, as you mentioned, and even in so many different industries such as sports. And from there on, that's why I think when we are looking at a lot of the professional people who are members of Grow Up, we tend to ask them like this question, that women do, we all see that sometimes women are just being seen as numbers, or like there are three or four executive women, they're at a higher pay job, but
Right.
the quality is not there, right? So when we talk about gender pay gaps, we have to also understand sort of like the idea that yes, it's not only just the pay gap, but the quality of work that they are being given in there. Are women still valued, like when women in sports, I know, like, are they also valued the same with men
Right.
regarding their abilities, right?
Right.
Regarding their the ways that they have like menstrual rights and everything, are they giving the same amount of rights? Because that's very much important, that's important as well to
Good
talk
point.
about. So it's not as cross-cutting, it's not as easy as it is,
Sure.
as it sounds, but it's very complicated. But I always say that we have to focus more on the quality as well of rights being given to women, instead of just the numbers that we see on the data, because the quality is actually what keeps it sustainable, what keeps this movement sustainable, and also what keeps this idea and conversation of gender moving forward
That-
and being more sustainable.
That is a great point, because I never actually thought of it that way. We always throw in they're always throwing
Numbers.
statistics at us,
Yeah.
such as there's so many players now in
Yeah.
the WNBA as opposed to the
Yeah.
NBA, or you're right, there's 5-6 people holding top positions now, or there's female referees and
Yeah.
officials now, or
Yeah.
coaches. But that's one out of
Yeah.
like 600,
Yeah.
or whatever number that is. And we need the spotlight on what's missing as opposed to what's there. I want to follow up with one more question in regards to gender equality in the workplace. How has the treatment of women in the workplace changed over the years? Are we any closer to where we want to be when it comes to gender equality, when it comes to the workplace? Because there are plenty of workplaces across the country, and I'm just curious as to, have we made any progress in that department?
Yeah.
Yes, as what we were just conversing, in your previous question, we still have a long way to go. A statistics by UN Women stated that 1 out of 3 women worldwide still experiences gender and inequality and sexual violence and harassment or some form of discrimination
Wow.
in their workplace, right? That's, again, I'm talking about the statistic. But then when I mixed it with then the quality of treatment that they are being given, we still see that a lot of the policies are not there yet. The policies from industries, from businesses, from corporations, and from company. Sometimes I always say that it's not easy. It's not enough to just say that we are a DEI, or like diverse, equity, and inclusive company,
Yeah.
right? It's more important that you practice what you preach. And the
Yeah.
way that you practice what you preach is for you to actually allow people from diverse and different backgrounds, races, everything into the company, and let them have a say in the policies, because from there on you're actually bringing in more diverse voices in a manner that is much more effective, in my opinion. We still have a lot of discriminations based on race, based on religion
Yep.
or sexes and gender, and because of that, I think that also affects how the company is being viewed or workplaces are being viewed. So we still have a long way to go because the policies are not there yet.
Yeah.
And the policies are not there yet because it's not enough to just do lip service. It's not
Yeah.
enough to just campaign and say you support gender
Yeah.
equality, but you're not putting in the effort.
Yeah.
Right.
So I always say that in terms of gender equality, in order to arrive at equality, you need to have equity, and the equity is being reached if you reach the right people and community, and diverse backgrounds, and so forth. So
That's,
yeah.
that is a very good point,
Yes.
because sometimes we think making policies would be just the best thing, but if you
Yeah.
invite those that the policies will affect to be part of the policymaking
Yes.
process, then wouldn't you have much better policies that suit everyone,
Yes,
right?
I
That's
think
very
there's
good
a lot
point.
of nuances because there's some perception, some stigma that actually involves the policy making, and as you mentioned, the representative who's making the decision itself, right?
True.
And now, from your point of view as an activist, knowing how nuanced this issue is, how complex this issue is, not only statistics, but actually like the implementation, the complexities, the different stakeholders that involve, right? What do you think is going to be the biggest contribution from the activists in helping to pave the way towards a more gender equal world?
Yes, I think that's a good question, because it's sort of like asking the other side, the people working in gender, like, what is the expectations coming from us? I think the expectations and what we can contribute even more is a intersectional view, but mostly is the idea that we can't do it just with ourselves. We have to be able to intersect not only with the issues but with other communities, with governments officials, with those who are from the different generation. We have to open up this conversation in a manner that is relatable to everyone. I think what I can speak on behalf is I can provide empathy. It's sort of like, in Girl Up, like, if any girls want to come to me and talk about gender, I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn. And I think what we can always provide is a platform to learn and unlearn about so many different things that we used to know or we don't know yet. It's a platform of empathy and a platform of safe space. What we can provide is a safe space for you and for everyone to talk about issues that maybe you're not really well familiar of, but we can try to make it as, as fun and relatable as it can be. And because creating a safe space is also creating a more a better conversation that flows better, about gender equality. And creating a safe space goes a long way. And I do mean a safe space both offline and online.
Right.
So
Very important there.
I know in the generation of COVID, we're like living online right now. So we're trying to create a more safer space online for us to talk about gender equality and fight for it. The keyword here is safe spaces for everyone.
Isabella
Good to hear.
Veronica, it's been so great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the C Morning Show. By the way, guys, if you're interested to know more, just feel free to go to your Instagram. It's really easy, Girl Up Indonesia,
Yeah.
or you can actually go right to the website, girlup.org. Once again, this has been Isabella Veronica. Bella, thank you again for joining us. Please do stay safe. We hope to have much more conversations with you as well in the future.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bella.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Thank
care.
you for having me, and stay safe, everyone. Hope everyone has a great day.
You too.
You
Have an
too.
awesome week.
Bye.
So yeah, but something that you're very familiar with, girl. For me, I think it's very important what Bella said about not just kind of limiting this to women,
Yes.
because if all these conversations are taking place just between women, which is
Yes.
great, then how are us guys going to
Yes.
get involved? How are we going to know more? We all have either mothers, daughters,
Exactly.
sisters, aunts,
Yes.
female colleagues. So we all
Yes.
need to be all part of the same conversation.
Yes, and I
in order
think
to move
you're
further.
portraying a very perfect example of how a guy or a man should be looking at into this issue, because sometimes a lot of them feel very excluded
Yeah,
from the
can
conversation because
understand.
these are all the feminists and
Yeah.
I'm a man,
And
so
it becomes more standoffish, right?
exactly.
Yes, I
But
understand.
actually, I think what we need to have more is, as what Bella mentioned, more conversation,
Mm-hmm.
open spaces. Because as you mentioned as well, you have mothers, you have sisters, you
Yeah.
have daughters. You want your daughters to feel safe and can be the best potential of herself, right? So yeah,
Definitely.
it's something that we should just keeping a heart of, like having a very great empathy to discuss about that.
Definitely. Keep your eyes and ears open, guys.
Yes, all right, guys. We actually still have plenty more for you, including our second guest for our National Heroes Day special edition. So stay tuned to the C Morning Show. We'll be right back.